Hey everybody, this is JDGaming, back today with a deck profile of Danger Dark Worlds. Now those of you following along with the channel on mobile or on computer may have seen a few weeks back, actually about a month ago, I ended up upgrading the internet here. Much better for the channel and being able to download and more importantly upload videos in a much more reasonable time frame, because these half-hour videos take sometimes up to 3 hours to upload. But we ended up getting much faster internet, and as I kind of mentioned there, the technician that came in to install everything over at the house ended up playing Yu-Gi-Oh! He saw some of my stuff around the house, was like really excited, started talking about how he used to run and was kind of off and on playing with his old Dark World deck, his Stardust deck, stuff like that. We got to talking, it was a lot of fun, and I just thought, well, the Dangers had at that point just come out in the Mega Tins. It'd be kind of fun to look into Dark Worlds. Plus, they just restocked those structure decks, the Gates to the Underworld, in my local shops. And I was like, why don't I go and try it out on my own? So I thought it would be a fun thing to do. So this was entirely inspired by that interaction with a really cool guy. So I don't know if he watches any of the stuff. I told him I made a channel, didn't tell him what it was or anything. But shout outs to Ashley who came out and did this. Man, you are awesome. Keep being really cool with all the folks you're working with. And if you happen to see this video, maybe this will help you out as well. So this is going to be a let's build. As always, I'm going to go through and explain my choices for things. Again, this is my first time working with this type of a deck, so I think the reasoning for why things are in here in the quantities they are should be a bit helpful to anyone else who's more experienced or anyone who's trying to introduce themselves to the theme as I have myself. But if you just want to see the regular alphabetical profile you're probably used to on other channels, feel free to click on the links in the description box down below where I have timestamps to the various sections. You can go look at all those, including explanations of various sections. And if you still have questions afterwards, feel free to let me know down in the comments, and hopefully I did a decent enough job explaining. So without further ado, let's build Danger Dark World. The first step in building any deck is to establish the theme and to build a core that supports the theme's goals. And although today we're saying Danger Dark World because that's what people have called this deck before and it kind of rolls off the tongue, we're actually talking about the Dark Worlds first, which I think makes a lot more sense because most people these days kind of know what the Dangers do, but may have been a little bit since we saw the actual Dark World monsters. We're starting off here with an introduction to the theme with the 3 copies of boss monster 𝗣𝗿cie Dragonlord of Dark World. This one happens to be a fiend, not a dragon, which is very much in line with all the other Dark World monsters. It's a dark, this one's level 8, and it's 2700 attack and 1800 defense. All the Dark World monsters tend to have 2 abilities, kind of like Sky Strikers, where one is a basic ability and then kind of an unlock condition if something else happens. So 𝗣𝗿cie, for example, if discarded by a card effect, not a cost but a card effect, you're able to go ahead and target a card on the field and destroy it. If your opponent was the one who used the ability that caused you to discard 𝗣𝗿cie, you can also choose a random card in their hand, look at it, and if it's a monster, you recruit it for your army, summoning it to your side of the field. Now, how do you know exactly what it is that will trigger a Dark World monster? What's an effect versus a cost? If you look at problem-solving card text, or PSCT, they use colons and semicolons. Colons are basically the 2 dots right above each other, and the semicolon is where you replace that bottom one kind of with a comma, so it's like a dot with like a slash under it, if you will. The semicolon is what separates to the left of that cost in a Yu-Gi-Oh card, and to the right of that, or anything after rather, any text that's part of the effect. So a card, let's say like Super Polymerization, that says discard 1 card, semicolon, blah 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 blah, you fuse for the ability, would not actually trigger the Dark World monsters because the discard is part of the cost. However, if you look at any of the cards like, let's say, the Danger monsters, you'll realize that after the semicolon, you'll be able to see all that, you know, special summon this guy, draw 1 card, you know, discard a random card from your hand, all that stuff is part of the effect. And so the Dangers and Dark Worlds naturally synergize with each other, which is kind of the inspiration for using that as the modern engine to get 𝗣𝗿𝗏 and his friends going in 2019 and beyond. In addition, 𝗣𝗏𝗏 has an unlimited type of ability, much like Firewall Dragon, if you remember that obnoxious FTK, where as long as you have a Dark World monster in play that's not 𝗣𝗏𝗏, you could just bounce that card back to your hand in order to summon 𝗣𝗏𝗏 from your graveyard, which is perfect because you're trying to discard him for its effect first, and then you can bounce him right back to your field by returning a different Dark World monster to your hand. There are some combos that'll allow us to establish multiple Dark Worlds on the field, so do keep that in mind, and we'll kind of talk about what we can do here. So those are the main abilities that 𝗣𝗲 has. How often realistically will you be summoning your opponent's card? Not much, but it is nice to know that your cards only get stronger in certain mirror match type situations, or if your opponent happens to be playing Dark Worlds, or something along those lines, or dangers. So that's what's it's important to note. You're basically using 𝗣𝗲 though as the pop-up card, level 8 monster, and a free summon. Next, we have 3 copies of Snow, Unlight of Dark World. This is a level 4 monster. It's a Dark Fiend, 1700 attack, 0 defense, and if he's discarded from hand to graveyard, you could go ahead, or I guess you could go ahead and search a Dark World card from your deck to your hand, and if you happen to get it discarded by your opponent's effect, the bonus is you could target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon that target in defense position, again, only if your opponent was the one to kill it, so you're probably not going to get Snow's second effect, but you will be able to use her ability to search a card from your deck, including the Gates of Dark World, for example, that you can easily tech thanks to this card being your searcher. So 3 copies of Snow, and then she ends up being a good card where if you have duplicates, you just go ahead and use them for your summoning of 𝗣𝗲. Next up, we have 2 copies of 𝗼𝗏, Huntsman of Dark World. This card is often seen at 3 in Dark World decks because it's basically an upstart goblin. If this is discarded to the graveyard, draw a card. If your opponent discarded it, you draw an additional card instead as well. Level 3, 1400 attack. It's an interesting card. It's also a tour guide target if you really wanted dark monsters in that way. I opted not to play tour guide in this particular build just because we're trying to move through our deck as quickly as possible. The normal summon realistically should go to a Dark World proper, just to make sure we don't make the deck more vulnerable to hand traps and such that really you don't need to make yourself exposed to. But essentially, 𝗼𝗏 is good because it's another Dark World name that you can bounce back with 𝗣𝗲. Then you can go ahead, after you have 𝗣𝗲 on field, use a danger effect, get rid of your 𝗼𝗏, and then you draw a card off of that to continue digging through your deck. So 2 copies of 𝗼𝗏. Originally played 3, cut it down because it clogged a bit, but feel free if you really want, you could play 3 of it. It is strong enough to do so. Similar case, I'm playing 2 𝗼𝗏 now after cutting it down from 3, but you could always play 3 of this as well. This is a level 4 dark monster with 1600 attack, 13 defense, and it says if it's discarded by a card effect, special summon it from the graveyard. One of the few exceptions where it doesn't have a bonus ability, at least as far as these main deck monsters go, but still very powerful, especially because there is a rank 4 monster that I'll talk about later that is extremely powerful in the strategy that you want to play at all costs, and this thing helps you make that. It's also interesting to note that 𝗼𝗏 synergizes perfectly with the Gates of Dark World. I play 1 copy of the field spell, which gives all your fiend monsters 300 attack and defense, technically your opponent as well, but realistically you're not seeing tons of those in every deck these days. Once per turn, you can also banish a fiend type monster from your graveyard as cost to discard a fiend monster for the effect and then draw 1 card. Not only is that good for triggering your other Dark World abilities, but it sets 𝗣𝗏 into the graveyard very nicely, allowing you to pop a card, and then if you happen to have some way of getting 𝗼𝗏 discarded, for example, you can bounce it right back to your hand because it was special summoned, summon a 𝗣𝗏, and if you have another 𝗣𝗏 in the graveyard, which often does happen in this deck, you can normal summon your 𝗼𝗏 or other Dark World again, and then summon your second 𝗣𝗏 by bouncing the 𝗼𝗏 back, which allows you to have 2 monsters now with 3000 attack thanks to the gates, or just go for an Xyz play if you need to access some toolbox effect from your extra deck. So very powerful 1 of in the strategy. The reason I play the 1 is terraforming's at 1 anyway. It's not the best thing you really have in your deck because the monsters are useful if you draw and discard them, spells not so much. And since you have Snow, who's basically 3 more copies of Gates, this ends up being my number 1 pick in most scenarios. And then if you happen to have access to this already, or you banished it with Desires or something, I suppose, you just go for the 𝗣𝗏 directly. But Gates is an awesome enabler, and the fact that it's able to give you an activated effect that discards your fiend monster and then draw you a card every single turn starts giving you the ability to snowball more advantage within the Dark World engine. So 1 copy of this is all you really need. Next up, it's time to talk about the danger monsters that, of course, a lot of you guys are more familiar with, but I still think it's worth introducing because if you're like me, you might not have properly looked at this archetype until around the time of starting this deck. So we're going to begin by kind of looking at dangers in general, starting with kind of the example here, Danger Bigfoot. This one happens to be a level 8 dark beast monster with 3000 attack and 0 defense, and the abilities follow the same pattern here. So common ability between all the dangers is you can reveal this card in your hand, put it back into your hand and shuffle it up because your opponent randomly chooses one card in your entire hand, then you discard the chosen card. And although I kind of, I guess, mentioned how problem-solving card text works here, looks like in that part there, none of that is cost. That is all the effect. So discarding is part of the effect, even though I may have misrepresented by saying colons and stuff. All that information's still true. It's just the danger simply discard as part of one effect. Then, if you discarded a card that is not named whatever danger monster you had used the effect for, so in this case Bigfoot, you special summon a Bigfoot from your hand in this case, or a copy of whatever you had revealed, and if you do, you draw one card. That's where it's all the same. So if you use a danger Snack, you use a danger, Thunderbird, all those have the same kind of ability of you reveal the monster you want to potentially summon, and if your opponent discards something else, you get to summon a copy of the monster you originally revealed. Then from there, they all have a unique discard effect. Bigfoot says if this card is discarded by anything, cost, or effect, which makes it a little more flexible than the Dark Worlds, you could target a face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it. So it's kind of like another form of 𝗣𝗿liche, although 𝗣𝗍liche can kill anything. Bigfoot is still able to kill face-up spells and traps in addition to face-up monsters, so very powerful ability, and you can only use this last discarded effect of Danger Bigfoot once per turn. What does that mean? Well, you gotta think in terms of dangers. Let's say you have multiple Bigfoots. You decrease the chance of discarding a monster that is not called Danger Bigfoot, which is something you have to watch out for, because if you hit any copy of Bigfoot in your hand, you would not be able to special summon it. In addition, although the first time you discard Bigfoot, you would get his ability, and afterwards you're able to use the effect of the other Bigfoot to reveal it, shuffle your hand, and play Russian roulette one more time. You can't actually go ahead and reveal, or rather discard the Bigfoot again and claim the pop effect in the same turn. So just keep in mind which ones you want to activate and maybe choose to discard if you get the opportunity whenever you have multiples in your hand, because although they still function as many times as you have copies as discard a random card as per the dangers, you don't get their discard abilities more than once in a turn. So do keep that in mind. But fortunately here, we are trying to special summon the monsters, and that's why we're playing 3 Danger Bigfoot as the start of our core, because they're level 8s that let us synergize with 𝗣𝗍liche in order to put together free materials for 𝗍𝗍 summons whenever we need. Plus, he's just a really big monster with a nice removal ability. Next up, for the same kind of reason, we have 3 Danger Thunderbird. This is another level 8 monster, 2800 attack, 24 defense, winged beast, has the same danger discard effect, and its discarded ability is that you're able to destroy one set card on the field. Again, could be a monster, but these days you're probably killing a spell or trap with this effect, which is nice because it means you don't have to rely on something like Nightmare Phoenix, as many other strategies have to in these types of formats. So Thunderbird is nice mainly because it's 3 more level 8 monsters that allow removal. 𝗣𝗍𝗄𝗄 is another monster that's able to be used as a level 8, but I found when you have these 6 plus the 3 𝗣𝗍liche, you often have enough level 8s to make your 𝗍𝗍 plays, and 𝗣𝗍𝗄𝗄's ability just isn't quite as useful as even Thunderbird just removing something, so that's why I chose to do that. But feel free, you always have another potential playset of another level 8 monster if you feel you want some more level 8s for your 𝗍𝗍 summons. Next up, in terms of importance to this deck, is actually a whopping 3 copies of Danger Mothman. This card's usually teched in at 1 copy, if that, in other Danger engines, because its second ability is like Dark World Dealings. You have each player draw a card and discard 1 card. But since that also, like Dark World Dealings, is a card effect that allows you to draw and discard, this thing allows you to hand fix like no other for the strategy. It lets you trigger whatever Danger or Dark World monster you would like in your hand, and therefore this is basically the better version of Dark World Dealings. I consider this card basically to be the best thing that you can play in that spot because it's a monster. The fact that it's level 4 is fantastic because, again, you can go for your rank 4 that we're just about to mention here, and it gives you the Danger ability, free special summon, so you don't have to normal, discard and choose whatever you would like, draw and discard another one. This card's fantastic. I would honestly put Drag Down to the Grave, which we also play later in this deck, as kind of the next step below that, just because it's not a monster, and then Dark World Dealings is like 3rd below that, just because it's not a monster and it doesn't actually do anything else besides your opponent gets to hand fix for free, and that's kind of risky. not a bad option, but when you have both of these other two, you kind of choose these instead of your actual Dark World dealings. So that's why we play 3 copies of Danger Mothman here. Then I like playing 2 copies of the level 4 Danger 𝗣𝗵𝗹𝗲, mainly because I want to have some more level 4 monsters for the theme. Has the same danger ability, but if it's discarded, you could take any of your non-𝗣𝗵𝗹𝗲 dangers in your graveyard, and once per turn, special summon it, which is cool because that lets you put together your 𝗍𝗍 summons either at rank 4 or rank 8. You pick and choose whichever would be the most helpful to you, and then just put it into play, which just helps enough with the combo. That's why 2 of them, you don't necessarily want to draw this before you have another danger in the graveyard, and that's why you just get a little extra oomph and combo potential with these guys without necessarily causing consistency issues, because it's just a danger or upstart goblin, if you will. The rank 4 that I've been alluding to here is number 60, 𝗣𝗿cie the Timeless. This card is just hilarious. If you've never read it before, I don't blame you. Came out randomly in Battles of Legend, Hero's Revenge. It's 1200 attack, 1200 defense, generic rank 4 that needs 2 level 4 monsters. It says you can detach 2 materials from this card to activate one of its 3 effects. I'll go kind of backwards order because it's kind of in order of importance here. So it lets you skip the battle phase of your next turn in order to double the attack of one monster you control until the end of this turn. So okay, I guess it's a nice little ability to get an OTK off. The middle ability is skip your next main phase 1 in order to special summon a monster from your graveyard in defense position, which, okay, that's not a bad ability either, because it's going to let you put another monster on the field, continue extending through special summons, and your main phase 1 may not matter if you're just able to put together a game-winning push right now. But the reason those 2 abilities pale in comparison is because of the context of this deck. Its first and only ability I've ever used on this card is skip your next draw phase to draw 2 cards and then discard 1 card, and all of that is the effect, which means you're able to go and not only just put this guy together through your Danger 𝗣𝗵𝗹𝗲s, your Dark World monsters, and your Mothman, which you're already trying to bring out to the board anyway, but you detach both of them in order to draw 2 instantly, discard a card, but then that can be any Danger or Dark World you would like. You trigger that ability and then get its free search or draw or special or whatever other ability it has as well. 𝗣𝗿cie is just insane for the amount of generation of advantage it's able to do, and that's why this thing, you gotta play 1 copy of it. Unfortunately, it is a hard once per turn. You can't use 𝗣𝗿cie's effect more than once per turn. That's why we play 1 copy, but that's also why we play those level 4 monsters, to allow us to really take advantage of this card once per game, every game. And then from there, the last few kind of danger monsters we play are the ones on the Forbidden and Limited list right now. The semi-limited 𝗍𝗍 allows you to go and search a danger card from your deck to hand. Unfortunately, it's a level 7, so it's a little less useful, but it's still a free monster, and everything else about it is a danger. Honestly, you could make like a random danger that has no discarded ability, and it'd still be semi-viable just for it being a danger in this deck. But 𝗍𝗍, you know, happens to be one of the better ones as well. Jackalope, same case. You could special summon a danger monster from your deck if it's discarded, and then Tsuchinoko basically lets you summon it no matter what happens, because even if it's discarded, you special it as well. Again, level 3 monsters here actually aren't as useful as you would think in this particular build, but still very good for having generic monsters that you need for 𝗍𝗍 summons and such. So, you know, free material, free draws, free discards. It's a very good engine to have to flesh out the rest of the danger package. The final part of the deck here is going to be fleshing out the main and then going straight into the extra in order to build our 𝗍𝗍's toolbox as well. So as I kind of mentioned before, Drag Down into the Grave is kind of like Mothman in this deck in that you're able to have your opponent discard one of your cards. This is your card effect though, even though your opponent's choosing, so it's not like you're going to unlock your abilities or anything, unfortunately, but basically has both people reveal their hands, discard a card from each other's hand, and then draw 1 card. Although you don't know the identity of 1 card your opponent draws off of this, you now know the effects and text and names of everything else in your opponent's hand, which is insanely powerful, and this thing lets you get around annoying hand traps. Ash Blossom will either have to negate this, which it often will, or it will be discarded, chances are, or you can go ahead and snipe annoying things like Nibiru, the Primal Being, which will wreck this deck because it special summons so many danger monsters. You just need to have an out to that card. So Drag Down to the Grave, phenomenal all around. If you set all the cards you wouldn't want your opponent to discard for you, you basically let them pick their poison. They're going to have to kill a danger or Dark World and trigger that ability, but very powerful. Originally I was playing 2 and I found, but since you get to choose what you get rid of here, this is honestly extremely powerful, and that puts it another step above Dark World dealings. That's why I ended up bumping it back up to 3, because it's just such a powerful enabler for the strategy, and it just makes it unfair. You can make it so your opponent can't really fight you back properly because you took away the best option that they have against your deck's weakness. Then we have a bunch of draw power in 3 copies of Allure of Darkness, which of course lets you draw 2 cards and then banish any dark monster from your hand. You have so many dark monsters here, a total of 27 in this 40-card deck, that you're pretty much guaranteed to draw at least 1 dark monster off of this, and chances are you'll draw 2. So very, very easy to hand fix with this thing. No reason not to play the 3 copies. And on that note, 2 copies of Pot of Desires, only because it's a 40-card deck. You could, in theory, again, add more dangers, add more Dark Worlds, flesh it out to up to 60 cards, and then you could consider a 3rd Desires. I kind of wanted to keep the deck a little smaller so I could keep tabs on exactly how consistent things were. 40 still works. You don't have to rip through your entire deck like a madman, so you can play it carefully in that regard and still have plenty of summons. So Desires essentially doesn't matter for your deck, because other than the gates, which you often search off snow instantly anyway, everything else is pretty much at 3. Some copies are at 2, but you don't really mind losing them too badly. There's so much consistency and redundancy in this deck that Desires is just a free extra card in your hand, since it actually pluses you in hand advantage, makes it so that the dangers don't kill you when you start bleeding stuff if your opponent hits those dangers. We play 1 copy of Monster Reborn for a few reasons here. 1, as a limited one of, it doesn't really hurt the consistency of your deck. I find that's important because as I was testing with my brother, we were kind of considering seeing, is there something better than Monster Reborn? Possibly, honestly, but it ends up being such a good card. A 1 of wild card doesn't negatively impact the consistency that much. On the other hand, the other things that we were kind of considering with it are, it's able to grab any monster, which there are plenty of monsters that you would want in this deck, either because they're just huge beaters, or because some of the Xyz monsters don't necessarily need materials in order to be useful to you. So that's pretty useful in that you can grab any one of those, and they're all very big threats. But I think the nice little thing as well is that Monster Reborn can be a straight plus in this deck. If you have Grapha in your graveyard, which you often will, reviving any Dark World monster means now you could bounce that Dark World to your hand to revive the Grapha. Monster Reborn turned into a Dark World in hand that you could trigger and then get another effect, probably for a free card, as well as a Grapha on your field, which you probably could have Monster Reborn something as powerful as that anyway. So Reborn is just a nice flexible catch-all, and that's not even considering it's stealing your opponent's graveyard and stuff like that. So overall, just too powerful not to play, I feel. You won't have a problem if you draw it. Just set it first, resolve your effects, and then play Monster Reborn when you need it. And then we also play 2 copies of Super Polymerization. I was originally running 3 of this because realistically, your targets are going to be the standard 1 Mud Dragon in the Swamp and 2 copies of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. It's so easy to look at this and think, well, wouldn't you want 3 Super Poly, JD? Because you have 3 targets here. The idea was, when I had 3 Super Polys, since you have so many cards that are basically Upstart Goblin with the 17 danger monsters, you're drawing through your deck so much that unless you accidentally hit one of these Super Polys with the Pot of Desires early on, which is not always the case, you often can dig through most of your deck, then play Desires later. The Super Poly ends up becoming something you draw very easily into for 1 copy, which is fantastic. And then you start drawing a second, and sometimes back when I was playing 3, the 3rd copy, and it was just kind of annoying how that card would clog, because you don't even want to discard your 3rd copy of Super Poly like in other decks where you may draw multiples. You'd rather discard a danger and then claim that card's effect, because those trigger even with the Super Poly cost. So I ended up cutting it to 2 just because I didn't like clogging into it, at least in game 1. You could definitely side the 3rd copy and start opening it with more consistently if you want to go second all the time, which, let's be honest, this deck kind of wants to go second. All your abilities are bonus effects if you're going second. If you're going first, it's not terrible, you're just wasting so many pop effects that are free. It kind of does hurt to see how exorbitant the deck ends up playing. But Super Poly, of course, lets you discard a card in order to fusion summon using monsters on either side of the field, and if you use 2 monsters with the same attribute but different types, which is honestly everything in this deck pretty much, you're able to summon Mud Dragon, but chances are you're fusing your opponent's monsters if they happen to be playing something like Light Sworns, where it's all light but all different types. You could go for something like that. And then the Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, I only just started playing this guy, behind the trend here, but it's such a powerful card. Level 8 Dark Monster means it synergizes for Xyz summons if you really need to. On summon, it can absorb the attack of a monster your opponent has summoned until the end of the turn, which is powerful because it can do 28 damage straight to your opponent's face. Also has the bonus ability of being able to copy a level 5 or higher monster your opponent controls effects until the end of the turn, and if your opponent happens to kill this fusion summoned card through destruction, you just destroy all their special summon monsters, which means if you summon this guy out using a few of your opponent's resources, you not only soften their board, but if they kill this guy, it's a bomb that kills the rest of their cards. So very powerful. Is it invincible or unfair? Not in particular, but it is a very powerful card. Very good at what it does, and the fact that you're playing so many dark monsters in this deck means sometimes you could super poly off of one of your cards and one of your opponents, or maybe in a very bad situation where you have like Tsuchinoko and can't do anything with it, just turn that into a material for Starving Venom. It's strong enough that warrants playing that, and that's also why we play the 2 super polys here, just to make sure we have outs to our opponent, but then we don't clog too much. Then the last card in the main deck is a single copy of Skill Drain. This card's just unfair. You pay 1,000 life points, and while monsters remain on the field, their effects are negated. So if they leave as part of the effect or cost or whatever, they end up not being negated. That's why Lone Fire Blossom, for example, can't be stopped by this card. But most monsters these days, especially from the extra deck, need to be on the field in order to activate and resolve their effects. This card stops that, and since you have so many 3,000 attack monsters that come out for free, sometimes your game plan changes when you have Skill Drain out, which you very easily draw into again with the upstart-like effects of the dangers. You just go set this thing, pay 1,000 life, and then if you bring out 2 Bigfoots, or a Bigfoot and a Grapha, like your opponent has to deal with 2 huge monsters, it's better sometimes not to even Xyz summon, because you don't have an effect on that monster anyway, and now they have to deal with multiple threats, or they just die because they can't deal with giant monsters. So 1 Skill Drain in here just to steal wins, because that card's good at that. And then now, time to go over into the extra deck. We're playing 1 copy of 𝗣𝗿ici's Apprentice. I don't always go for this thing, mainly because of the popularity of super polymerization in the format, because if you leave this with any other monster you summon that's dark, you kind of leave yourself open to a super poly. But sometimes you just have to use this thing as, an easy way of opening up arrows. Having it in the extra deck also isn't a bad option, because if it dies, you recycle any dark monster from your graveyard, and it power boosts every one of your creatures by 500 attack and defense, which is huge, because that means if you summon out, let's say, 5 monsters, then you gain 2,500 extra attack, basically a free body that you can kill your opponent within a turn. So very powerful OTK enabler, opens up arrows for a cheap cost of only 2 dark monsters, so you kind of have to play it, even though honestly do watch out that it doesn't backfire if your opponent is playing the super poly. For Link 3, I only play 1 monster. It's Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. This thing just needs any 3 monsters with different names, and if it happens to use at least a single level 7 or higher monster for its summon, which all your Dark Worlds and Dangers, kind of the big guys, all fall into that category, you gain a bonus ability of this card cannot be targeted with card effects, and it cannot be destroyed by battle with your opponent's cards. Destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So no targeting or destruction by card effects. It's already 3,000 attacks, so it probably won't die in battle. And then has a bonus effect where if it kills a monster your opponent has, you can go ahead and either give this card 1,500 attack permanently, boosting it up to 4,500 and beyond, or you can have it the following turn start getting 2 attacks, which then on each of those attacks, this would trigger and then gain the ability to either boost its attack or get another attack the next turn, or the third ability is banish 1 card on the field without targeting, so very powerful removal that gets around a lot of protection. This card is just insane. It's not the type of card that's invincible and impossible to get rid of, but it's definitely one where if your opponent doesn't address it as soon as possible, they start bleeding so many cards that they're going to have a bad time. Probably not going to win if this thing lasts for, is able to resolve its ability once or more. So card is very, very powerful, so easy to summon, and opens up zones. So that's why we play the 1 copy of this. Is it necessary? No, but especially when I originally built this deck, this was like the only Link monster I went for a time. So very powerful, definitely worth having access to it. If you can't afford it, there are some other options as well, but it's definitely a card where in a vacuum, in a perfect world, you'll try to play this card if you can. And then the last 2 cards I play for the Link monsters are the Link 4s here. Kind of, as I mentioned in all my decks, the perfect defense and the perfect offense, whether you're going first or second. So 𝗼𝗿cie, very easy to summon with 3 or 4 materials here. Just needs any monsters that aren't tokens with different names, and basically you're able to go ahead, summon 𝗼𝗿cie, 8 gains, 800 attack for every one of the materials. Often you're summoning this for 3,200 attack with all 4 materials, and then once per chain, you can decrease its attack by exactly 800 in order to negate the activated effect of a monster, whether it be an annoying hand trap or an negate type of monster effect or some other combo extender that your opponent needs to go off. This card's just insanely oppressive, opens up all the zones you would ever need, even one on your opponent's field, and it's just ultimately a very, very powerful card. That's why we play the 1 copy of this, because this is one of the best things you can go for when you're going first. The fact that it's not dark and it's not like a fiend or anything weird, it's like a fairy, makes it safe from super poly most of the time as well. Then you also have a 𝗼𝗿cie Sword Dragon. This thing needs 3 or more effect monsters. Again, very easy to summon. Has the ability to just change a monster to defense position to then attack twice in the turn. And if it attacks your opponent's monster, it has the ability to go and just have that monster's attack boost its own attack by that same amount, doing 3,000 to the face, and then if you have a clear shot at your opponent's life, you now do more than 3,000 through the second attack. So very powerful card, ends games out of nowhere, and that's why we play the 𝗼𝗿cie Sword as well. And I want to mention here, the 𝗼𝗿cie is especially powerful because of the first member of our 𝗣𝗍cie toolbox here, the rank 8 𝗍𝗫𝗄 Orchis of the Morning Star, or Evening Star, I believe. Dark monster, rank 8, just needs any 2 level 8 monsters, which, you know, everyone's used to summoning this with Orchists, but I think with 𝗍𝗄, people are a little more used to seeing this be played as an actual 𝗣𝗍ie monster. Very powerful, 2,600 attack, 2,100 defense machine. It says upon play, you can just go ahead and just send a card on the field to the graveyard, no targeting or anything, which is insane. You have the other Orchis-related ability of using machines that are banished as materials for this, but you're never doing that in this deck, let's be honest. So all you have to care about is on summon, just send something to the graveyard, and then, as long as this thing has materials, all of your creatures get the ability, or all your cards rather, if it would die, you could just detach a material from this card instead. That does not start a chain, that does not have any opportunity for your opponent to respond to it. It's like wind-up Zen Mines back in the day, where now if you have this thing summoned under an 𝗼𝗿𝗍cie, 𝗼𝗿𝗍 has 3,200 attack to start, you summon this thing. If you're going second, you get to get rid of one of your opponent's cards, but even if you go first and waste that ability, you now have a 2,600 body, that's your weaker monster. This thing can negate effects. Oh, your opponent's trying to bait this effect out so they can run it over. 𝗍𝗫𝗄 can protect the 𝗼𝗿𝗍 so it does get the remainder of its abilities, because even if it tries to die in battle twice, it won't, and then it'd have to die a 3rd time. So makes it even harder for your opponent to get rid of the combination of these 2 cards, and that's why I love playing these 2 cards in combo. Originally, I was just playing the 𝗍𝗫𝗄 as kind of my opening play. I'm like, it's not bad, but it kind of just sits there not dying. If there was only a better card I could protect, it'd be awesome. I considered like Instant Fusion for the window, which is still powerful, but I think more consistent is 𝗼𝗿𝗍, because this main deck, you know, you draw into all your cards, which is nice, so you could rely on Instant Fusion, but rather than doing that, I think it's a little easier. Just turn your resources into 𝗼𝗿𝗍. It's a monster that can just end the game for you because it's so big, and combine it with 𝗍𝗫𝗄, it ends up putting up a nice wall that your opponent has to bleed cards to, so I like doing that. We play a single copy of number 22 𝗍𝗍stein. This could be something like Divine Dragon Knight Felgrand, but essentially, this thing needs 2 dark monsters to summon, level 8s, of course. It's got 4,500 attack, which is very weird. Like, if you look at this card and then look at the classic Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon and realize, dang, they have the same printed stat on the card, it's actually kind of amusing and amazing that it's this strong. But this card has to be 𝗣𝗍ie summoned, cannot be revived or anything. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach a material from this card and send a card from your hand to the graveyard. Unfortunately, that doesn't trigger anything because it's not a discard. But for doing all that, you get to target any face-up card your opponent controls, monster, spell, or trap, change this card to defense position for its effect, and if you do, that face-up card has its effect negated until the end of the turn. The fact that this is able to stop not only monsters, but also spells and traps that your opponent may be using to just like blow you out of the water, I think makes this card insanely powerful. Yes, it has 1,000 defense, and I'll admit the 𝗍𝗄 deck with the Golden Castle of Stromberg does have more synergy with this card because it protects this guy in battle, but honestly, you have Grapha's free. Your dangers are free and give you other advantages. Chances are you're not going to die because you lost to 𝗍𝗍stein in battle if it means this 4,500 behemoth is able to out the one thing that your opponent was throwing to try and stop it anyway. So very powerful card. You're not using it to just blank anything your opponent does. It's more of a behemoth, and if your opponent has some answer, you stop that answer. and at least make it very difficult for them to get additional advantage off of that out. So powerful card nonetheless, and if you have skill drain, this is just a 45 beater as well, which is kind of funny. Your opponent has to beat over that, but it's a super poly target, so watch out. Number 38, Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy. Say that 5 times fast. It's a light dragon monster, 3,000 attack, 2,500 defense, so it's basically Blue Eyes White Dragon here. Once per turn, during either player's turn, you could just negate a spell effect, and then or spell effect or card, and then just attach it to this as material, which is pretty cool. Also has other abilities that you don't care about too much, but it says when your opponent declares an attack, you could detach a material from this card to make this guy become the target and then immediately go to damage calculation, so it can protect your other cards like 𝗣𝗿𝗍𝗲 as well. And if a face-up Xyz monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, kind of hard to set up this with another Xyz, but it says you can target a face-up Xyz you control and have it gain attack equal to one of the destroyed monster's original attacks. That's a permanent effect, so pretty nice boost, especially if you put it on Titanic. But this is another monster you could summon instead of Dingirsu, or heck, if you have the resources, in addition to Dingirsu, and then just go and make 𝗣𝗿𝗍𝗲 even more invincible. And then kind of fitting in with the negating your opponent's abilities is number 68, Xenophon, the Sky Prison. This thing's another generic rank 8, 2,100 attack, 2,700 defense, gains 100 attack and defense for every monster in both graveyards, so it gets very large very quickly, especially because this is Dark Worlds. And once per turn, you can detach one material from this card until the end of your opponent's next turn. This card can't be killed by card effects, and neither player can special summon monsters from either graveyard. So you're often summoning this in defense unless there's tons of cards in the graveyard. But basically, it's a pseudo Abyss Dweller type of effect. Your opponent's graveyard effects can activate, but they can't summon anything from the graveyard, which, you know, Orcus, so many decks focus on getting these types of revivals, and when you're able to use this to stop all of them in one card, it's kind of like Abyss Dweller. You gotta have access to this card at least, because it'll pay off more often than not just investing one extra deck slot for this. And then the very last 3 cards I'm talking about in the extra deck here, spending lots of time just because a lot of these cards are new, honestly, and you know, not commonly seen. We're playing a Galaxy Eyes package. So Galaxy Eyes Cypher Dragon is a rank 8 monster, generic, needs only 2 monsters, and that's important because the rest of the package needs more than that. 3,000 attack, 2,500 defense. Once per turn, you can detach a material from this card to target a face-up monster your opponent controls. If you do, monsters you control cannot attack your opponent directly for the rest of the turn except this card. Also, you take control of the targeted monster until the end phase, but it has its effects negated. Its attack becomes 3,000, and its name is treated as Galaxy Eyes Cypher Dragon. So lots of stuff, but essentially what it does is it steals your opponent's guy, turns it into a copy of this with no other effects. You attack with that guy to kill a monster, and then you attack directly with Cypher Dragon is the idea here. So you can do 3,000 damage. So mind control like effect isn't a bad thing. It is a until the end of the turn thing, but you could always go ahead and, you know, link off with the monsters or something after using that. The main reason you play this, though, isn't for that effect most of the time. It's going to be because it is a 2-material Galaxy Eyes monster, which means you can now rank it up into Galaxy Eyes Full Armor Photon Dragon, who normally needs 3 level 8 monsters, but you could just go ahead and use Cypher Dragon along with its materials, since it's a Galaxy Eyes Xyz monster, in order to summon this thing. Transfer everything over to this guy. Once per turn, you can use up to 2 equip cards equipped to this guy and attach them as materials. I don't even know when that would come up, maybe more in a pure Galaxy deck, but I've never even thought of using that effect. All you care about is once per turn, this card says you could detach a material to target a face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it. It's got 4,000 attack, making it another powerful option when you have skill drain out that is not vulnerable to Super Poly nearly as much, as long as you're avoiding dark monsters and your opponent doesn't, or excuse me, light monsters, and your opponent doesn't drop one of their own. And then you can further upgrade this one more time into Galaxy Eyes Cypher Blade Dragon, a rank 9 that normally needs 3 9s, but you can also just use a rank 8 Galaxy Eyes monster, so use the Photon Dragon. Basically, you could go ahead, use this card's ability to just detach a card, or detach a material and pop any card, which is awesome because now you go summon this, overlay into this, pop a face up, overlay into this, pop another card, so you kill 2 cards for no reason off of just a generic rank 8. Yes, it eats up 2 slots in your extra deck, but most of the time you don't really care about the extra deck space that much. It's not that tight. Heck, I'm playing 2 Starving Venoms in here with only 2 Super Polys, if that gives you an idea of how not tight this extra deck is. Like, you have a ton of options, but you don't really feel like all of them are mandatory. You also have a bonus ability that says if Cypher Blade Dragon is killed by your opponent's card, you could go ahead and revive a copy of of the original Cypher Dragon from the graveyard. So effectively it has a layer of protection where this 3200 monster will replace itself with a 3000, and that's even better because you've killed 2 of your opponent's cards to soften their blow. They waste a 3rd card to get rid of this, and now they have to deal with this guy after losing 3 cards. So that's why this engine's in here. It's just a very card efficient way of getting rid of multiple of your opponent's cards, and then potentially if they can't get through all these guys and this guy twice, they lose. So that's why we play this. And yeah, lots of stuff in the extra deck, but again, wanted to make sure we went through all these cards because they're not always seen outside of pure rank 8 type of decks. If you watched the video in its entirety, thanks! Hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing the creation of this deck as much as I did putting it together for you guys. We'll start off with the main deck here. We have double 𝗼𝗏, Huntsman of Dark World, double 𝗵𝗵, Vanguard of Dark World, triple danger Bigfoot, double danger 𝗣𝗵𝗶𝗹𝗲, double danger Jackalope, triple danger Mothman, double danger Nessie, triple danger Thunderbird, double danger Tsuchinoko, triple 𝗏𝗏, Dragonlord of Dark World, and triple Snow, Unlight of Dark World. Then for the spells, we have here 3 copies of Allure of Darkness, triple Drag Down to the Grave, double Pot of Desires, 1 Monster Reborn, double Super Polymerization, and 1 The Gates of Dark World, and then 1 copy of Skill Drain, and that makes it a 40-card main deck. It's 27 monsters, 12 spells, and 1 trap. And then we have, for the extra deck, we have Link 2 in 𝗣𝗐𝗍ℐ's Apprentice, a Link 3 in Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos, Link 4s in 𝗍𝗿𝗍𝗶, Bow of the Goddess, and Boral Sword Dragon. Then for rank 4, we have the lone number 60 Dugara's the Timeless, but this card is just the MVP of this extra, I tell you. Then for rank 8s, we have Dingirsu, Orchest of the Evening Star. We have number 22 Zombie Stein, number 38 Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy, number 68 Sanafond the Sky Prison. Then for the Galaxy package, we have 1 Galaxy Eyes Cypher Dragon, 1 Galaxy Eyes Full Armor Photon Dragon, and a rank 9 that you summon off of those guys, Galaxy Eyes Cypher Blade Dragon. Then for our Super Poly targets, we have double Starving Venom Fusion Dragon because you're playing all darks, and then the 1 Mud Dragon of the Swamp to swallow up your opponent's cards as well. That's it for now, but feel free to grab one of these videos on your way out. If you really enjoyed what you saw today, remember to subscribe to JD Gaming for more Yu-Gi-Oh videos. Thanks guys, this is JD Gaming, hope you guys enjoyed as always, and I'll see you guys next time.